Chairman and Mr. Speaker, I rise today supporting H.R. 1153, and as someone who worked in the housing industry, in fact, for the third generation, this is a very important issue to me and, more importantly, to all of our constituents across the country. The Qualified Mortgage Ability to Repay rule, as mandated by the Dodd-Frank Act, went into effect in January of 2014. This QM rule is the primary means for mortgage lenders to satisfy its ability to repay requirements. Additionally, Dodd-Frank provides that a QM may not have points and fees in excess of 3% of the loan amount. So far, so good. The currently, however, defined points and fees include, among other charges, salaries paid to loan officers, loan level price adjustments, as the chairman was talking about. Those are traditionally known as points. Payments by lenders to corresponding banks, credit unions, and mortgage brokers in wholesale transactions. As has been discussed, fees paid to affiliated, however not unaffiliated, title companies. And this is the one that's most bizarre of all. Amounts of insurance and taxes held in escrow. That counts as towards that 3%. As a result of this confusing and problematic definition, many affiliated loans, particularly those made to low and moderate income home borrowers, could not qualify as QMs. Without that designation, it's unlikely the loan would be made, and if it were, it would only be available at higher rates due to the heightened liability risks. Consumers would lose the ability to take advantage of the convenience and market efficiencies offered by one-stop shopping. Hardworking Americans realize one-stop shopping every day. They partake in it. An example, in West Michigan, we have the headquarters of Meijer. Meijer is a great regional supermarket chain that is where families across the Midwest go to buy groceries, pick up clothes for the kids, pick up auto parts. It is a one-stop shop that allows you to do just about everything you need for your home. Well, purchasing a home is one of the most important decisions a family makes. And why shouldn't they have the same ability to take advantage of that same cost-effective convenience of one-stop shopping when buying a home? I, along with Representative Gregory Meeks, reintroduced H.R. 1153, bipartisan legislation to modify and clarify the way that these points and fees are calculated and help families across America to one-stop shop. This legislation is narrowly focused to promote access to affordable mortgage credit without overturning the important consumer protections and sound underwriting required under Dodd-Frank's ability to repay provisions. And as the chairman pointed out, also the RESPA provisions that are federal law stay in place. Very similar legislation overwhelmingly passed the House of Representatives last Congress, as well as in the 113th. I think it is important to note that when we first introduced this bill in 2012, it looked substantially different. However, working with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, we worked together to improve the legislation. The result has been a truly bipartisan effort at every step of the way in the legislative debate. Specifically, H.R. 1153 would do a couple of things. It would provide equal treatment for affiliated versus unaffiliated title fees. It doesn't change the 44 states that have a regulated title insurance cost structure. It doesn't change any of those costs that a homeowner would have. It just allows them to actually go lower rather than higher. It also clarifies the treatment of insurance held in escrow. These two simple common sense changes will promote access to affordable mortgage credit for low and moderate income families, and indeed all families, and especially though first-time home buyers, by ensuring that safe and properly underwritten mortgages pass the QM test. Whether or not you supported Dodd-Frank, it's clear that the law is going to require some to ensure qualified borrowers aren't locked out of home ownership and the beneficial features of a qualified mortgage. The QM represents the safest, best underwriting mortgage available on the market. It's the gold standard, and it should be the gold standard. We should want more responsible people getting QMs, not fewer. Quite frankly, this is something that we should all agree on. In fact, we did last year. Our bill doesn't touch any of the CFPB's strict underwriting criteria. It doesn't in any way suspend a lender's legal requirement to determine that a borrower has the ability to repay that loan. You know, the ranking member points out a real problem that did happen in the industry, and frankly, one that many of us in the industry warned of. But this does nothing that allows state-regulated title insurance to be violated or any of those federal steps regarding the qualified mortgage. It in no way sidesteps any of these RESPA or QM requirements. But, Mr. Speaker, I must admit I'm completely baffled by the ranking member's new opposition to this bill. It was very carefully negotiated in order to receive bipartisan support, which the ranking member has voted for previously. In fact, she was so supportive that she, along with 11 other Democrats from the committee, sent a letter dated August 1 of 2014 to the Senate urging the Senate to, quote, quickly adopt the Mortgage Choice Act, end quote. And I'd like to ask that this letter be inserted into the record, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection.
In the letter, it stated that the bill would, quote, improve access to credit and that, quote, enhance competition among title insurance providers. Well, I couldn't agree more with the ranking member. You know, she talks now of kickbacks, and I'm confused as to how an affiliated title structure, pricing structure, versus an unaffiliated title purchase is somehow a kickback. I'm confused at how an escrow, money that is put into a holding account to be used later to pay off debt. I'm curious how that is a kickback. And I wish I had time to yield to the gentlelady to hear that answer. But she's talking about mega banks, and this is frankly just a red herring in this whole thing. Congress has the opportunity to help more Americans realize a portion of the American dream, not by some grandiose law or decree, but by simply reforming a burdensome regulation. Homeownership is a pillar of the American life for generations. Today, we can affirm that pillar and reassert that homeownership can and should be an attainable goal. I want to thank my colleague, Representative Meeks, and many others who have worked so tirelessly on this to fix this flawed provision, and I encourage all of my colleagues to vote for H.R. 1153, and I yield back.
The gentleman